All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Brave New North. My name is Sean Conway. We are tuning in on the 17th of April in the year of our Lord 2021, and everything is horrible, but it's okay. We're going to have a great conversation with a fantastic organizer about the nature of campaigning and how that works and getting messages out, and also look at some of the barriers that big tech has been uh, putting on sort of scrappy upstart campaigns and the difficulties that come with that. And I think we're going to get right into it. Be sure to hit the like and the subscribe and hit the bell for notifications and all of that business. So let's bring in Terra Loire. Hi, Terra.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm alive. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Like coming off convention last week and getting back into normal, which is good, and everything is horrible, but it's okay. But we're gonna have a great conversation tonight. Who knows who's gonna show up a little later on? But why don't you? Why don't we start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Tara. I have been doing digital organizing in some form or another since 2013, I would say. And I was doing whatever I didn't know it was called organizing back then, but since I was a kid, my mom was like really great at bringing me out to things. So I've done everything by now from unpaid, scrappy grassroots digital organizing to running a provincial campaigns digital organizing, which was Manitoba, their last election. And I've been fighting Doug Ford for a very long time. I was doing the math, and Doug Ford might be my longest relationship with a cis man, which is unfortunate. 2013 is long term. I hate it. It's toxic.
Yeah.
Can't escape it though.
Well, maybe in about a year's time.
Yep. June 2nd.
Can't come soon enough. Um, so yeah, we've been back and forth on Twitter quite a bit over the last little while, and I think one of the things that I really like about your approach is that it's very pragmatic, but also you got a really good, I think, work ethic around what it takes to actually do digital organizing. And like I do the like in-person organizing, and I like to like rile people up, but I have like almost no experience on the digital side of things and how that works. Or um, so maybe something from you that would be really useful for people that listen to this show, because we get a lot of people who are organizers that tune in and check out what we're talking about. um, what would you say would be sort of your like best practices for getting a message out and resonating with people, um, using social media and digital advertising or anything like that?
Yeah. So, my first recommendation for anyone who is enthusiastic about digital organizing is actually to log off. um, Internet can be one beast, but logging off and taking some space for yourself, and also understanding that digital organizing isn't working within a bubble, it's working to complement what's happening on the ground, is super important. And a lot of folks who get really excited about it come into this and they lose that part. That part's really easy to lose. So that would be the first thing that I would suggest to people. And then the second thing I would suggest to people, in every single workshop I give, or any training I do, is you have to have a goal. There's a lot of people shouting into the echo chamber, but you have to think long term about what your goal is, because if you're talking to people who mostly were already going to vote for you, and that's how you're using digital, that's helpful, but it's not the full story. You need to get volunteers, you need to persuade people, you need to mobilize your followers, you need to make sure you're talking to the right people. So every single thing that you put out should have an end goal in mind. It can be as simple as I want to show my base that I'm listening and I'm on side with them with this issue by just posting a tweet. But it could be as complex as I want to get 2,300 people signed up on this petition by the end of this weekend. How many posts do I have to do that? What other tools can I use?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good, and it's something that we do in field organizing too, is being goal oriented and building capacity there. In your experience, how important is like a team of digital organizers? How can one person do this? What's the approach?
Yeah, so it can really be one person to, I've worked on campaigns where it's been 25-ish people, and that's like a more national one. But it's really about figuring out what you do well and committing to that. And then everything else is gravy. So when I was in Manitoba, I was the only digital person there, despite it being an entire provincial campaign. But I was very lucky to have other senior staff that were digitally savvy and trusted me with the work, and they knew that I did it well. So I was able to reach a lot of goals. And when I say goals, I don't just, again, I mean, not just having a tweet go viral or things like that, but doubling the mailing list is great. You can bring in like a third or a fifth of your fundraising on digital if you do it well with one person, which just saves so much more time. If you have a good data connection, you can line up your digital leads and who you're talking to with the people on the ground that you're talking to. So being able to say, if you're doing advertisements, you can put one advertisement to people in Populous that have been, a 4 and need a certain message that's different than someone who's, say, a 2. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I think it does. And I think there's just so many different ways that people talk about like what organizing is. So maybe from you, like, what is organizing? Which is a really funny question to ask people.
Yeah, I would say organizing is building a movement, which sounds very pie in the sky. But what I mean by that is it's bringing people into the tent, it's keeping them in the tent, and then it's mobilizing them. So that, again, can be something from just a general wave of support online and at the polls, or it can be mobilizing people to get direct action done, whether that is paid sick days, which we need, whether it's advocating for long-term care homes and their safety, whether it's, pay equity for midwives. Having people behind your movement makes it feel not only possible, but like you're not shouting into the abyss alone, which I think is something a lot of us are feeling lately.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to feel deflated. But one of the things that I kind of really hold on to is, this is my personality. I'm an eternal optimist and a very positive person for the most part. But I think just in like organizing in left-wing spaces, you have to be really, really positive all the time and upbeat. But also that comes from my own views around organizing, and that I think that organizing and connecting with people needs to be like a super fun thing. And I like organizing that way. And it's something that I did in campaigns, and even when I was a candidate, it was all about like having a really, really good time with new people, but also with the team and other volunteers or organizers or people that just wanted to take a look at like the campaign for a day. trying to be super, super positive and have a good time and genuinely have a good time. It's not like faking it. Like I have
Yeah.
a good time doing campaigns and I really, really enjoy that work. And I think that that's something that we need to do in left-wing spaces, is to have fun, because so much of the sort of discourse around left-wing politics is like, oh, well, you're not a real leftist, or you're not a real leftist. And it's the Spider-Man meme, right? But really what it has to be is, you just imagine all the different Spider-Mans having a really good time. And that's what that's what I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think similar to a lot of what you just said, goes back to my initial point of logging off once in a while, getting some fresh air. But also, if we're all fighting all the time, what are we fighting for if we don't have hobbies, things we enjoy, things that make us feel excited about the future? That's why I, work overtime and work really hard, is because I have things that I love, and I want everyone to have access to things that make their lives less stressful, more abundant, and more free. So I totally agree with you there. And I often find it's difficult on digital, specifically because big tech and algorithms reward negativity. So you have to work really hard to get a positive message across that mobilizes people, or talk about the negative things in a constructive way, because Facebook is going to, anything that's clickbaity and is far from the truth is gonna, and gets people commenting, that's gonna go up in an algorithm before a well thought out statement about policy. So it's really frustrating. But what I hope to do in my work is get the people who, for lack of a better word, aren't pieces of shit online, get the people who are doing good work to take up more of that space. And you can do a lot of that through digital. And you can use digital to combat a lot of what the outside narrative is. I mean, we all see probably every day how Doug Ford calls Andrea angry, nails on a chalkboard, isn't doing anything. But then you hop over onto her social, and she's generally, and if you've ever seen her talk in person, which I'm sure you have, Sean, she's very warm and like approachable and passionate, and she knows what she's talking about. And we need to be using sort of that side of her, as well as the sort of like righteous fire side of her, as do all politicians and all people in this space. But just being really mindful about sort of the ratio of positivity to negativity you bring to your online organizing.
Yeah, it's funny talking about Andrea. Like, there are so many amazing Andrea Horwath stories, like especially from back in the day at the Hamilton District Labor Council. Andrea Horwath organized 100,000 workers to strike in Hamilton. Like, that's a wild story, and nobody knows about it, or at least I think it's been a while now. But like, that's a really huge accomplishment in Canadian labor history, and as well through the NDP. The Hamilton roots, I think, are really, really important, and the working class roots are there. Like, I've met Andrea a ton of times. We've hung out before. I've done the leaders tour a number of times, and I was a candidate for her in 2018, and she's awesome. Like, I do not get honestly, I don't get any criticism of Andrea Horwath. It for me, like, I look at Andrea, and she's been the leader now for a while now, but I still think she's got a lot of fire and a lot of energy left, and she's a dynamite campaigner.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on a lot of that. And I mean, I'll do the caveat that no one is above criticism, but a lot of the criticisms we see of her are not based in reality. There's a lot of, sorry, one moment, I have to go get my cat from misbehaving.
That's all right. If you're still tuning in and have any questions for Terra, feel free to put them in the chat. Terra is also on Twitter and is definitely an A+ follower. You can follow Terra at Terra Loire on the old Twitter. There's some good tweets in the last little while. I was on the Brave New North Twitter page until like 1 o'clock in the morning the other day during the Yukon election. There was some pretty funny back and forth. And the Yukon election, we should talk about that at some point because it's an absolute wild result.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, it was. I stayed up pretty late, not till the end, but pretty late. But my cat will most likely make an appearance at some point. She's just sort of walking around.
We love a cat tax here on the show.
But what I was saying beforehand about the criticisms we see of Andrea, also a lot of the time that we see of the party from both outside and within don't always line up with the reality. I mean, I am not someone who has no complaints about anything ever, but I rarely see the ones that myself and my close friends are talking about reflected in the larger narrative. Andrea is a working class person. She's also was a single mom for a long time, holding public office, and the right will come after her family and her kid. And that's really awful. And she stands up and she still does all of this work, and she meets with unions and she meets with people every week. I remember the moment that I kind of fully switched onto like Andrea is the real deal was when Doug Ford cut city council. Myself and another person in Toronto organized a rally within the next less than 24 hours from that announcement. And she showed up and she lit the place on fire and was just speaking from the heart, no speaking notes. And it was great. And then she just left and worked for the rest of the night, I'm pretty sure. So she's great. The narratives around that and the complaints around that. But I know a lot of Ontario's opposition face similar issues as well. I mean, Jill Andrew is one of my favorite members of opposition, and she's also a friend of mine. And the way that the media, that the Conservatives paint her a lot of the time is disgustingly racist, sexist, angry Black woman, which is awful in any case, but also for people who know and speak to her. She is lovely. She is dorky. She's not the thing that a lot of people think she is. So it's really, she's been doing a great job lately of showing that playful side on social, as well as that, righteous, angry side. And I think it's fine for us to all show that righteous, angry side because there's a lot to be fucking angry about.
Hell yeah. We got a question for you from Brandon, friend of the show, Brandon Amiet. Question for Terra. Thoughts on how we organize in an accessible way, especially in COVID area? I think it's a great question.
Yeah. So wish we had captions on here to start with, but bringing that into everything you do, like even on Twitter, if I post an infographic onto a large account, I take the time to add the alt text to it. I also think that organizing in an accessible way, there's all the tactics that you can do, thinking of captioning, thinking of alt text, thinking of, how people read on screen. But there's also the approach that you come to it with. I'm wanting to set the tone that this is an accessible space, regardless of what accessibility means to you. Having that forefront of mind, making sure that if you're doing community organizing online, that you have, say, a general note of rules to engage within this space or social contract. If you are dedicated to that work, staying on top of people who are derailing conversations or, whatabouting certain issues. So staying on top of all of that work is just as important as the technical aspects as well.
I think that's a pretty good response. Yeah, I just put out in the chat there that if anyone has any tips on how to get captions on StreamYard, which is the platform we use to do the show, please reach out, send us a DM. It's something I've looked into and I haven't been able to figure it out, but I know some people get them. I think on YouTube
there's auto captions, but I have a note
the auto captions. Pardon?
So I do have a note on captioning services, which is like auto captioning services. Do a lot of research and testing into the one that you use, because a lot of them are based on the basis that everyone speaks in a certain dialect, a certain white male dialect, and they often mistranscribe accents or up talking. So there's an accessibility issue within the accessibility issue of getting captions anyways, which is just levels of oppression.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. And they never are right, the ones that are built in. But there has to be a service. This has been people have been doing this for a long time now. There has to be things that are better.
I mean, a lot of white tech bros have been doing this for a long time. And they take up most of the space and the funding. There are a lot of great intersectional digital advocates and programmers out there, but it's like everything. It's like politics. Pale male, that tends to win the day. But there are some good things out there, and it's also giving yourself the time to do those things. So whenever someone suggests captioning to me, and maybe it's someone who doesn't use online stuff very well, they're like, okay, so you can get that done in a half hour, right? It's like, no, but doesn't it do it automatically? I'm like, it does, but that's about like half correct. And I am going to do my due diligence and go through every line and make sure every person's name is spelled the right way and all of the punctuation is correct as well.
Yeah, I think it's really important to note that it does take time to do these sorts of things. Yeah. And it's important to do them. And, I can commit to trying to find a better way to do the captioning on here, because I like when captions are good. Like
right? It's like should be an easy thing, but unfortunately it's not. But we have like 40 million food delivery apps. Yeah.
Yeah, the capitalism breeds innovation, but it only innovates food delivery apps.
Pretty much.
So let's Brandon, I hope that answered your question. And Brandon, if you want to pop on the air, just slide into the DMs. But I believe that Brandon had a big day today, so we'll see.
And he knows where to find me.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Not in a threatening way. That just came across very threatening, but we are friendly, is what I mean to say.
Yeah, and again, if anyone has any questions about sort of digital organizing and the online push and like what I think that the theme is kind of what's the future of campaigning in your opinion. We've talked a lot on the show about the hybrid model that is going to emerge over the next couple of years. The big part, I think, being moving into the next big election, which will actually, unfortunately, I think it's going to be a federal election first. and then we will have an Ontario election and Alberta, and what else happens around then? Maybe municipal elections in Ontario.
Yeah.
They're all going to happen up and around the same time, and it's going to be very, very chaotic over the next year, which is really exciting because we're in an out of control pandemic, and the government at all levels are not doing a very good job in managing anything. And actually, just on that note, we can break a little bit of news. So the Prime Minister's office has just released a very troll-worthy statement. The Prime Minister has reached out to the Atlantic provinces to see about Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland, and Labrador to provide assistance to Ontario. So it was very troll heavy.
Yeah. He also could provide assistance and step in, but that's neither here nor there. But when we talk about the future of organizing and the future of campaigning, really sexy political topic is digital infrastructure and making sure that you're putting in that digital infrastructure yesterday, not a month before the election or a couple months before the writ drops. You have to be doing that work now, just like how you need to be doing that on the ground work in between elections as well, because by the time the writ drops, you want to be able to hit the ground running and be able to have a base to already mobilize. Like when an election comes, you shouldn't be trying to invite more people into your online tent. You should have a very large tent that you can mobilize through email, through social, through texting programs, and all that stuff. So if anyone's thinking about it, definitely get into that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think it's always important to have good digital infrastructure, and there are things that can happen. I just want to touch back on that CBC News alert just about 40 minutes ago. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau reaches out to 3 Atlantic premiers to talk about helping, quote, Ontarians get through the third wave of COVID-19 cases. And it links to a tweet from the Prime Minister this afternoon. In response to rapidly rising numbers of COVID-19 cases across Ontario, I reached out to Premiers Andrew Furey, Dennis King, and Ian Rankin. We spoke about how we can work together to help Ontarians get through this third wave. And I saw that through Dr. Fishman posting it, and he called it a troll. I think it is exactly that. And it's so number one, it is objectively funny.
Yeah.
Number two, it just shows how callous Justin Trudeau can be, in the fact that I'm of the belief that the federal government is letting Ontario fail. And because it's only good for Liberal polling numbers federally in Ontario, so that Doug Ford can be the boogeyman in the very soon federal election. And that's a really deeply cynical view, but I think they're doing it on purpose. Sound off in the chat if you disagree with me, but I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think my initial, as you can tell, I have no poker face, issue with that tweet and whether or not it's a troll and whether or not it leads to that political strategy you're talking about. But it's the same old, what action is there in that? You had a conversation. We've been having conversations for a really long time. Like, what came out of that conversation? Are there like action items? Is there going to be numbers, or is it just, we're talking? Because that's what we hear from Ford too. Like, we're having the hard conversations. We're having the important conversations. With whom? How? Are those, you're talking to health experts? Are you listening to health experts? I have no doubt that you talk to them and you receive their reports, but do you actually implement anything? I'm really tired of men talking about how to fix people's lives. No offense, Sean, instead of doing it. And I just say men because that's specifically who we have right now. Is two. I mean, I'm in Toronto, so 3 white men in power, right on up, who don't know what real life is like.
Yeah, I think there's that big disconnect. I think just in the class analysis, it's absolutely a disconnect in all 3 levels. In Toronto, particularly, in my riding, it's a bit different, but still that class difference from the struggles of everyday people does exist, and it is really, it's not helpful, when you see these sorts of things. And what was helpful about Justin Trudeau saying that he reached out to 3 premiers in a disaffected province of Canada, right? Like, there's no inherent value to that, nor is there anything other than politics. And
Yeah.
it's very unfortunate because we are in need of certain federal powers right now, or I think.
Yeah, I mean, the government has been fairly toothless. A lot of the progressive things that have come out of COVID, as you and I both know, were pushed by the NDP. But I met with Justin Trudeau right after he was elected, and it was before the official Trump being the Republican candidate. Even they were still debating that, but he couldn't even be bothered to say Trump's name in any sort of negative situation because he plays a long game. And we need so much better than that, than enabling people to get into power because we're too scared of, whatever repercussions or things will come back. I mean, as I mentioned, I've been organizing against the Ford brothers for a very long time. And I was talking with a friend today about how, so I used to be part of a group called Women in Toronto Politics that was formed directly because of Doug Ford. And we would talk to people about how bad enabling this kind of horrible behavior is. And, we would get gaslit or told we're being too emotional, and look where we are. Look where we are now. Everyone in 2013 who told us that it wasn't a big deal. Yeah. Including counselors. Just saying that.
Including who? Sorry?
Including counselors, who, didn't want to offend the wrong person in case that became their new boss.
Yeah. Ooh. But yeah, I think it's a lot of politicking for politics' sake, and it really abandons, I think, the values that people are supposed to have when they're representing community. I think fundamentally one of the things that we should look for, I think, as people that operate in the left and in progressive movements, is to finding people who have those solid values and can call a spade, and not beat around the bush on when someone is fundamentally bad.
Yeah.
And who in Toronto, at Toronto City Council, Gord Perks, Crest, I don't live there, so
I would say in that case, though, the riding that Gord Perks represents is not a risk for him to be against someone like Doug Ford. So, yeah. I mean, thank you for speaking out, but it's also, that's more likely to get him elected based on the activists in that riding. So, thanks. That's about all. I don't have a cookie for that. I just have a.
I never thought that I would be hosting a show that roasted Gord Perks.
I don't have no problem with him. I'm just saying.
I'm just kidding. I hope he's listening sometime. And I like Gord Perks a lot.
If Gord is listening in, I am not that sorry, but we'll always have Buffy. He's a big Buffy fan, so we can always connect on that. But I do thank you for a lot of the work that you do. I just don't think that particular thing is a risk.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good view on that, because I would never think that way. I would think like, oh, good, like so he's going off. This is good, but
Yeah.
this is I'm not there, right?
Yeah.
I like to comment on Toronto politics, but I'm not there.
Yeah, I mean, again, guess I'm gonna make a new like catchphrase of logging off, because there are a lot of people, both within the left, centrism, and the right, who have a particular online branding, and that's not. This is not Gord Park's subtweet, by the way, but just elaborating on that. There are a lot of people who have a really great progressive branding, but don't live up to that in private. And often, it's politically better for them to be bold in certain types of comments and positions and the way that they brand themselves. There's not a risk there. And in fact, it might not even align with their views as much, or how they treat their staff or treat people on the ground. So Twitter isn't real life, is all I'm saying.
It's a begrudging agreement from me. As much as I would love Twitter to be real life, I know that it isn't. But there's still a couple of things. I think I saw a great tweet the other day that was of the soup for my family guy at the rally. It's nice to see Twitter show up in real life sometimes.
Yeah.
And even the guy from Minnesota, the guy ice fishing, CNN did a word on the street sort of broadcast from an ice fishing hole. And there's this young guy said, "Oh, those bombs Biden's dropping are pretty expensive for a guy that owes me $2,000," which was so funny.
Yeah.
And those are two great examples of Twitter is real life. Maybe the other is Adam Vaughn, but we don't have to go there.
He blocked me. I can't see it anymore. I think you're referring to also my tweet the other day about him of I want a partner as dedicated to me as Adam Vaughn is dedicated to being wrong.
Yeah, it's evergreen, right? Like this is it. Like, what a stooge.
But it's also his brand. It works for him, to be honest. His liberal bros love that. They love that. It's helped get him elected. So it annoys the rest of us. But, you got to commend someone to sticking to their brand.
Yeah, like even looking at, the Donald Trump thing. Like Donald Trump's greatest asset was that he pissed people off.
Yeah.
And his base loved it. It's the same thing with Adam Vaughn. He, but only, could it be that Adam Vaughn is more wrong than Donald Trump on a lot of things? I don't want to go there, but Adam Vaughn is definitely wrong on a lot of things.
I think the difference where it becomes more frustrating with someone like Adam is that he genuinely thinks he's on the right side of history. Donald Trump doesn't think of himself as a good person who cares about others and is interested in diversity and inclusivity. Like, we know that he's a piece of shit. We know that he knows he's a piece of shit. But with Adam and his, the people that surround him, like, they think that this is as progressive as you can be. This is the best we can be. And that's actually pretty depressing. Like, if that's their version of best.
Yeah. Well, and I think it too is, he has such a, like, he really genuinely, he believes he's a progressive.
Yeah.
He genuinely believes that he has good leftist values. And he believes that he is progressive. I'm sure he thinks that he's like, whatever stalwart of the left in the United States you want to go for. But
he thinks he's on level with AOC. You can say it.
But even then, like, I can't. I'm jumping off the AOC train a little bit these days, but I understand why, and it's fine. Like, I'm fine with AOC doing whatever AOC does, because it's about talking to people who are not your voters. Like that's a really, really important thing. Like it goes back to this. I forget who I was talking to, who I was reading. I've got a lot of books on the go right now, but someone said something, and it might have even been on Twitter, but it makes a lot of sense to me, is if you're talking to your base, it's a wasted opportunity because, well, not wasted, because it depends on goals, like you talked about, right? You need to be talking to the people who aren't voting for you, that could vote for you. It's talking to,
that's an important disclaimer there. Like trying to convince someone who's never going to be convinced. Like if you've got a lot of extra time, I guess go for it. But if you're talking to people and engaging people and bringing them into a movement and also making them feel heard and seen, that's really important, not just for your own campaign, but for democracy as a whole. Because we don't have like 100% voter turnout. We have nowhere close to that. So bringing more people into this world, and, you know, there's a lot of people in the left, I'll say, like, don't view that as an asset. And it's absolutely an asset. You know, some people view that as like, oh, you want more centrists in here. No, I don't really want more centrists personally, but I do want people to feel empowered to engage in their local politics because it impacts their lives.
Yeah, big time. You know, the largest group of voters in Ontario that are kind of swing voters, it's not the quote unquote swing voters. It's the people that don't vote.
Yeah.
And so in my riding in Peterborough Kawartha, it's a big number. You know, we only have like a 60% voter turnout, and that's pretty much on level with the rest of Ontario. You have 40% of people that don't vote because they're not attached to anything. Like that is the priority. When I was a candidate, I never called ones. I never called twos. I called fours who didn't vote.
Yeah.
You know, as a candidate.
Yeah.
No, it's not that we weren't calling ones and twos, but my priority would always be in calling threes and fours or people who didn't vote.
Yeah.
And saying, hey, how's it going? My name's Sean Conway. I'm running for the NDP.
And
do you want to have a conversation?
From a candidate. I mean, if I've never voted before, or I voted a couple times when I was like, you know, in my early 20s, but I've been disengaged, and a candidate calls me personally to talk about my issues. And I'm sure you do it this way, but I really do mean talk about the person's issues, and have a conversation, because a lot of people will just talk at other people. But having that dialogue is super important. And that's also what digital organizing is trying to do, from the way that I approach it, is that it's a dialogue and not a monologue. Also, yes, person in the comments, threes and fours and ones and twos, if you knock on doors, you have an app or a clipboard or a note in your phone, depending on how you're equipped, when you're knocking on doors and talking to people about who they might vote for and why, and you grade them based on, you know, ones are people who've already agreed to vote for you, twos are probably going to vote for you, threes are up for debate what they actually mean, but I go with undecided. Or could use more persuasion. And fours are people who either say they're never going to vote for you, or they don't vote at all.
Are not voting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I always wanted to do when I was out in community was I wanted to talk to people that have been sort of burned by the political system, or they were burned by politicians. They were burned by the system. And because I feel the same way, right? So I can connect with somebody on a personal level and say, like, hey, you know what? Politics suck, but let's do these couple of things because I think that you're going to be better off if we do these things together. You know, like that's how you connect with people, at least in my view, right? Like, I think, you know, there's no one way that works for everything. And on the show here, we've talked about two different models of sort of engagement and going to talk to people. So the one that I really like is the quote unquote Riverdale model, which is, you know, you go door to door all the time and you're just constantly in the community. You're constantly talking to people. And that's a really, really effective way to for people to see that you're actually out and working in the community. The other would be the Gantz model, which is the Olivia Chow method, which is about connecting storytelling into engagement, which I think is also very valid. And I think we actually endorsed a mixed Riverdale Gantz method. That's the official organizing structure of Brave New North as a TV show. That's what we officially endorse. Is a mix between the Gantz and Riverdale model. But I always believe that if you're a candidate or you're working for a campaign, so
Yeah.
when I was setting up pamphlets and saw a guy with a Confederate, yes, that would be a 4.
Yeah. And, okay, so that is kind of a funny joke, but also just it's important to note stuff like that down, not just the 4s, because you have so many volunteers going and knocking on doors. If someone has a Confederate flag, you don't want a Black volunteer to show up at their door. Like, you want them to feel like you were looking out for them. So when you come across that stuff, I mean, I remember when I was first canvassing, and the first time I ever canvassed, a large man came up to me on the street and screamed in my face and called me a communist cunt. And I was too scared to say anything to anyone. But people who came to that corner again may have experienced that too. So we gotta look out for each other in all of the ways that we can, right?
I remember getting yelled at on the street that I was it wasn't even a communist. I think I got called a Maoist.
Oh.
Yeah. But,
I mean, at least mine had alliteration.
Yeah, it was, I still I used to get a lot of the Bob Ray thing, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was talking to friends of mine in the public sector now, looking back at Ray days, and people are like, well, you know what? We still had our jobs.
Yep.
But
and
again,
I mean, Mike Harris came right after, so it's not great.
Not great. So let's go and talk about Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
Let's recap News Saturday. Breaking news from earlier this afternoon. The playgrounds aren't closed. The cops won't be bringing back carding.
It's without reason is the language they slid in there to cover themselves.
Well, again, it goes back to the governing by trial balloon, which they've done since the beginning, and they float or implement some horrible idea, and then when everyone says, like, we're going to go burn down Queen's Park, they say, oh, we didn't mean that. We just meant this. And then the new measure that replaces it is just as bad, but people are like, oh, well, at least they're not doing that.
Yeah. Or they tell you that they never said it and that you're just too stupid.
Yeah, and it's your fault. It's an individual's fault that the pandemic is happening, and it's not any of the systemic infrastructure
Sean, it's your fault that the pandemic is happening.
It literally cannot be. I'm double vaccinated.
I heard Doug Ford say it, so
it's I'm sure I come up a lot at the cabinet table as a real thorn in their side. At least I was for a little while. I still am, but it was Peterborough Kawartha. If anyone has a couple of coins to spare, we came in 2018 about 1,800 votes from taking it out, and I totally crushed a sitting Liberal cabinet minister. So it's my big achievement.
Yeah,
I will not be running in the next election, but I look forward to working on the campaign because I am a sitting councillor in my community and I love my community. I'm going to stay here.
And I mean, I'm sure the next campaign is going to benefit from a lot of the work that you did in the 2018 campaign. They're going to have data, they're going to have leads, they're going to know some of the messaging that's stuck. So even if you're not running again, you've already helped the next person running.
Yeah, Peterborough, Kawartha, we're going to flip orange, and we're going to make sure the Liberals never, ever, ever come back. That is my lifelong goal, is to destroy the Ontario Liberal Party. And I just really, I can't wait to balkanize the Ontario Liberal Party, because I would love for us to continue the trend of provincial Liberal parties in dissolving and being eaten up by the Conservative parties.
As long as NDP is at the top there, I
am
in agreement. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it's like in Manitoba. Their Liberal Party was a wonderful joke. Yeah, but I am really excited to see communities like yours feeling more mobilized, even my hometown as well. I don't think he's officially a candidate yet, but Pekka would be probably, he was the candidate last time, and that's my hometown. So, seeing my community get like someone who actually advocates for them. My dad is retired. Before this whole pandemic started, we were talking about, long-term care and what retirement homes will look like. And he was of the opinion that it didn't really matter where he went. And now we're a pandemic, and he does agree. And he lives with my sibling who works in a factory and has to be going in and can't afford to not be going in. So having representation there that's like actual working class representation and puts people before the profits of their donors and investors and lobbyists, that would be amazing. I mean, obviously for more than just my family, but it's a community that really does need it.
Yeah. Pekka is awesome. I remember meeting him at campaign school, and I thought he was a great candidate, really smart guy, really considerate. Barry Annisville is the riding. I think he got 27% of the vote. And it's like a total flippable. There's enough swing there. I think that that he has a really, really good shot. The member there is Andrea Kanjan, I think. Let me see. Yeah,
I should have this sheet memorized by now, but
that's okay. I'll do the hard Googling tonight. Yes, it is Andrea Kanjan with 43% of the vote. So there is a bit of swing there that's possible, and Pekka is a fantastic candidate. I wish him all the best, and I've always had great conversations whenever I've seen him.
Yeah, so and I've seen he's been doing the in-between election campaigning pretty well. He's pretty active. He's got he digitally organizes on Facebook with his community. I see his posts all the time, even though I'm in that group, but I haven't been home in quite a few years. But he's doing that work that you need to be doing in between elections. So I do have some hope there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of ridings that can be hopeful. I believe there's that fellow on Twitter, historian Matt Mueller. I don't know much about him, but he was dropping some facts there on some of the swing ridings, and mine being one of them, where the NDP only needed 60,000 votes across the board in a couple of key places to form government, and specifically only about 20,000 votes needed to flip so that we would be able to be in a coalition government situation, or at least stop a majority government. And it's totally doable, because a lot of the infrastructure that the Ontario NDP has been working on has continued to be mobilized over the last little a couple of years, and I still think it's going to be a heck of a fight. And because the Liberals will nip at our heels. But again, you got to remind them that it's Stephen Del Duca. That is the leader of the Liberal Party.
Don't even, like, people forget his name. Don't help them remember it. I mean,
he's as corrupt could be.
Yeah. But he does the Liberal thing very well of being corrupt, but also being boring. So you don't notice how corrupt he is. So
it's like that. Who was that American professor that was the leader of the Federal Liberal Party? What was his name?
Ignatieff?
Yes. He's like Michael Ignatieff, like just such a boring, corrupt person.
But I mean, if we're going to go with that parallel, that is who Jack absolutely slayed at the polls. Yeah. So that, I like that comparison personally.
And if you think about it the same way too, this Jack had 4 or 5 swings at it. Andrea, this will be her 4th.
And we have a really large, like the largest caucus we've had without like ruling. And I do have to say, what does sort of get me out of bed in the morning is being on the inside a little bit. I know that the people in our universe, we've gotten more people into the Ontario NDP universe than any other year, including election years, which is like unheard of. We got so many more people, and we are giving Doug Ford a run for his money with small-time donations. If you ever, the financial reports come out, and we have a lot to celebrate about. And I mean, we're doing well enough that, it's going to get lost in the fray of this clusterfuck of a weekend. But Doug also passed legislation that around fundraising that benefits himself, where the maximum donation you can give has now doubled. And since he relies on all max donors, that's legislation that's to benefit him. But, I think we have just as much fight in us. And if he's going to do that, we're going to double our amount of monthly givers. Also, if my boss is watching, no, we don't officially commit to that.
One of the things that you can look to with the Ontario NDP, and I also know this the same way you do, me being a member of the board, but the Ontario NDP, and this has been a press release that we've done before. If you look at the Ontario NDP, our individual donations, we receive, the Ontario NDP, more individual donations in Ontario than the Progressive Conservative Party, the Liberal Party, the Green Party, Libertarians, whoever combined.
Yep.
Our average donation is something like $30, and it's not lower than that.
Yeah, keep talking. I'm going to pull up the actual numbers because I have them.
I think it's really, really important because one of the things that I really wanted in 2018 as a candidate, so speaking as a former candidate, was more teeth from Central, and particularly around the provincial director and the president of the party taking a more active role in campaigns. And what I've seen is Lucy and Mary Rita taking a really big stand in promoting the party from an administrative point of view, and politicizing that role and going out there and sticking their necks out and say, like, hey, listen up, Tories, like, we have more support from Canadians than you do directly. We've got a large membership base. We have lots of more donors than anyone who recognize what we do. Look at the survey that Marit Stiles did, the petition on safe schools, that crashed our website for like how many days?
Oh, only a couple hours. We have good digital infrastructure, but it did crash. Don't talk about our...
but hundreds of thousands of Ontarians. Yeah, please, if you have the numbers up.
Average conservative donation. It does not include the last financial reports because they're still just a caveat, when you do read those financial reports, you have to check if they're counting small donations, because that's where we do really well. So that's like half of our revenue. And they only report a certain amount. But with those numbers in mind, average conservative donation is $357. Average liberal is $146. Ours is $30. But the number of individual donations made to the PCs were 10,000. Number of individual donations made to the liberals was 14,000. Can you guess how many donations we got?
100,000.
Oh, it's 90,000. Only 90,000. Maybe next quarter will be 100,000. But you look at that, 90,000 donations compared to 10,000. That I'm really proud of the work that we've done to get there. And I mean, Doug Ford has done some of the work for us by being awful, but that really does, put a lot of momentum behind our campaigns and where we can win and where we can spend money, where we can staff people, where we can spend advertising money, whether that's online or in radio or in print, to really get this done and give local campaigns like yours the resources that you need to actually win. I mean, if you've been to campaign school in the last year or so, it's been, we're going to teach you how to win a campaign. It's not how to do a campaign, it's how to win one.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's talking with incoming NDP President DJ Coley here on the show a couple of weeks ago, wanting to take kind of the Ontario NDP model of online campaign school, which is very, very good, and trying to replicate that on the federal level, I think is so important. In Ontario, I remember doing campaign school in person in 2017 or 2018, and hundreds of people in class, right? Like in a class. And candidates being in other things, but we trained my campaign manager, we trained my VCOs at these things. And if we were to digitize that, and Ontario NDP has been doing a great job in reaching out to organizers and all this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. If we can do that federally, we're in great shape. Ads on Twitch would help with younger voters. Lots of political streamers on there. Yes, absolutely. I'm of the belief that you got to meet people where they are. And there are a ton of people on Twitch, particularly this show. Like I'm just a bit of a Luddite. I hang out on YouTube. So thank you, YouTube. But I do have a Twitch account, and someday I'll get over there. Lots of friends of the show are over on Twitch, and we do some rebroadcasts over there from time to time. Hey Baz, how are you doing? Hair points on game. Hair game on point. Thank you, Baz.
Baz, please compliment me too, because I did an anxiety depression cut during Ford's presser yesterday. So I think for like a manic moment, it came out okay. Your hair is lovely too, though, Sean.
It's funny. Oh, you're getting some shout outs on the planned action. I've just got the one. It's over there.
Oh, you don't see all of these? This is my family. I live alone. Thank you, Baz. Yeah, I mean, these bangs could be a little bit straighter, but again, rage cutting while waiting for news is the 6th time I've done that this pandemic. So
I actually started this show as a reason to continue giving myself haircuts.
So what was I going to say? Going back to Twitch, as much as I would love to talk about my hair forever and ever, but going back to Twitch, I mean, looking at digital advertising right now is really important with all of the things that are changing rapidly, specifically because of the US election stuff. Thank you for complimenting my bangs. But political advertising on Facebook has really become more difficult for smaller grassroots organizations with all the changes that Facebook, Zuckerberg, and others are making, saying that it's to prevent large misinformation campaigns, but it also has the side effect of, chopping grassroots, smaller, scrappy organizations off at the knees, because it did open up a lot of opportunity for folks that didn't have the money for mainstream media, didn't have the money for big TV ads, to be reaching people where they are and getting that information. And a lot of that is changing right now. We've been running ads, we've been running into problems. They do need a grassroots section. They do not care. They absolutely do not care. Like, I've been invited to Facebook offices as here's what we care about. And it was awful. Basically, if you're not spending $100,000 a month, they don't care that much. And other tools like online organizing tools are now having to shut down because of it. So Friday was only yesterday?
Yes.
So Friday, I think it was, Action Sprout, which was a really great digital organizing tool that we were looking into, had to announce that they're closing their doors because of Facebook. Over 40 still watches a lot of TV, but it's a place where you have to spend a lot of money to reach a few people. Whereas Facebook, you can, a certain riding is super friendly to you. You can advertise there. You can not just like a vote for me advertisement, but for issues. I mean, a lot of the stuff we're doing right now is around paid sick days. And if you live in a 905 riding or Southwestern Ontario riding, you might see an ad this weekend that is about how your MPP has paid sick days, Doug Ford has paid sick days, but you don't. Trying to mobilize people specifically in those ridings to take action.
That's smart.
But it's also becoming more difficult because of Facebook. So I'd love if it was smart, but making sure to diversify, because a lot of people put so much money into Facebook and then it changes on a dime. And we've seen publishers have to close because of it. That whole pivot to video nonsense that just didn't pan out. But that's also why, coming back to one of my original points, digital does not replace on the ground organizing. The two work together to make each other better. So if you're coming into digital organizing, feeling, a lot of people will slide into my DMs like, I get a lot of action on Twitter. I'm going to, apply to be part of your, I'm like, that's lovely. How do you feel about the ladder of engagement? And if they say, what's that? Then it's, a chance to educate, maybe invite them to one of our campaign school trainings and things like that. But, just because you get, I think if anyone watched the Liberal nomination meeting between Tyler Watt in Ottawa, and I forget the gentleman who won, but, NDP Twitter was having a meltdown that this guy that they all knew who had, I think he has like 2 million followers on Twitter and his own YouTube show, lost to, I saw people say like, oh, this guy only has 80 followers on Twitter and he won. And it's because he was doing the on the ground organizing.
Which is inherently more valuable in a lot of ways. Not that, online is not valuable. It's you need a balanced approach to everything. And I think that was interesting. And now Tyler Watt's the candidate. Again, they've done a switch over, and we'll see what that looks like in that riding, which it's Nepean, right?
I think so.
Lisa McLeod. He's going to get trounced.
Oh my God. Do you remember when we thought this government was really bad when Lisa McLeod was more in the news? And
well, we didn't have a pandemic. We just had Lisa McLeod. And we did oust her from cabinet. Oh, hey, Adrian Roberts, shout out, candidate in Brantford Brant.
Will be
federal NDP candidate in Brantford Brant, Adrian Roberts. If you're listening, please drop your website link. We love you. We want to support you. Yes. So I think there's a bunch of stuff that just keeps happening. Ugh. Yuck.
Are you looking at
Innovative. I'm looking at an innovation research group poll that Philip Vernier just posted. Crushing, but it shows the Tories well underneath their ceiling of 27 for the Tories federally?
Okay.
Yeah. Who knows what that means? But anyways, polls are meaningless. Don't put too much attention.
I have had so many, usually cishet white men, tell me I'm stupid for believing in astrology and follow polls like nobody's business. I mean,
well, they're the same people that would say, like, I used to vote for the NDP, but ever since Jagmeet Singh has taken the NDP and he has shamed Jack Layton's name. Like what? By being like a really scrappy and effective opposition parliamentarian?
But also like any organizer that has access to populists can look that up. Anyone in a central organization can look up how many petitions you sign, how much money you have ever donated to the NDP, and the answer is usually 0 and 0.
Unless you've given $100 to Alexa back in 1997, you're not a real NDP.
I mean, the likelihood.
I don't know if it goes back that far, but
in populists, you can see like people who say that they're going to vote liberal. You can see that, in likelihood,
anyone that says like I used to vote NDP until Jagmeet Singh, they've always voted liberal.
Yeah.
It is literally like when they give you the like Liberal Party membership card, they say, okay, this is what you say to all the leftists on the internet. On the back, it just says, I used to vote NDP.
Yeah. It's like when? Who was your local candidate? Yeah.
What riding are you from? They don't know.
Yeah. Just
the thing, somebody brought up, the NDP. It was DJ Coley, actually. I'm going to go back to DJ.
And also hard to agree with us.
Yeah, 100%. And that's exactly it. But, damn it. I just forgot.
DJ saying something smart, passionate, probably.
Yeah, it was great. It was, I forget it.
Well, I'm just gonna go off Baz's comment, because as much as I love to, hate on the liberals for being hypocrites, it's also something we have to look at within our own party. There are a lot of self-proclaimed leftists who, once it's convenient, the racism, the sexism, transphobia comes out.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard the Jagmeet.
I think I hear kids. I'll just be here 1 minute.
Okay. For everyone else, there was a lot of complaints about Jagmeet and how he became the leader. And the line amongst some Uber leftists was that, he just came in with all these people and just like stole the vote. And what they were really referring to was being angry that him and his team in Grattan were engaging with folks in Brampton and bringing in more racialized people to the party who then voted for him. But thank you, Adrian. Nice to know that I'm not just like talking into the abyss, but yeah, I mean, I think we do have to have those conversations within our own party, and call people in when we need to, because, for me, every time I get mad about a liberal doing this shit, I just like mentally take a note that I also have to call out the people that are within our movement as well. Yeah. If anyone has any other comments, you can feel free to type them in the chat here. While we're waiting for Sean, I'm going to just show you oh, you're back. I was about to show everyone my cat.
Oh, please bring on the
Okay, let me
cat.
go
We
get
want to see the baby.
This is Pi. And she is well known at the NDP because she comes on most of our calls because I can't stop her because she's a menace. And I actually think if she could vote, she'd probably be a liberal because she's that menacing. She's very, self-righteous. So I'm glad she can't vote. Oh, Baz, that's so nice. Yes, today has been very, very brutal. So it's actually neither, Jordan. Her full name is Pye Wackett from an old movie I watched when I was a kid, spelled P-Y-E. And in the movie, she was a witch's cat. And I kind of just grew up to also be a witch with a cat named Pye Wackett. She's obviously thrilled to be here.
I do have a cat. I don't know if my cat's ever made an appearance on the show before. I have a cat named Louise, who I adopted, and she was a barn cat. She has a little mustache. She's very cute.
Yeah.
Back when I was in rock and roll, I actually did a magazine cover, and it was all me and my cat. But it's fun times.
I will also let everyone know as a PSA that I did design a new demo cat GIF on Giphy that you can use in your Instagram stories and whatnot. It was very high priority for us as an organization. Yeah. And yeah, she is a diva. She is the biggest diva.
Can we post GIFs on YouTube chat? Does anyone know that question? Know the answer to that? I don't know if we can.
I don't know either. And also type in Doug Ford. You should see potentially some of our GIFs come up. Adrian, yeah, they are really good organizers. I mean, maybe we should all start taking cues from our cats and just go to Doug's house at 5:30 in the morning and just scream. Just like absolutely scream 5:30 every morning. See what happens. Like, it works on me. I get up and I feed her.
So I just make sure the bowl's always full and everything's fine. You know, we got a pretty good.
Yes, that is my work. I'm just absolutely proud that if you type in Doug Ford, we come up. I made sure that happened because their gifts sucked. Yeah. And yes, so I'm very happy on that very small win.
You know, back in the days of action to the Mike Harris government, I was speaking to a couple of folks who used to work at provincial office back in the day, and really good friends, really good organizers who were helping out on my campaign in 2018. And what they would do, what the Tories did to us, is whenever we would have a campaign office, they would spam our fax machines.
Oh my God.
And because everything was faxed back in the day, so they would literally just go buy a fax machine and get it set to an auto dialer that was just sending things in all the time. So all the printers in the offices were, please add Baz on social media at Bazmati. And we need to get into that sort of disruption, I think, in our own local campaigns. This is, of course, unsanctioned and
yes,
ideas.
I have a unsanctioned example from a friend who's not me, 100% of that kind of little fun disruption. But hypothetically, I might have known someone before they joined a certain political party officially that had Doug Ford's cell phone number and would text him photos of angry cats along with how they criticize his policy. And we chatted several times about it. He would call me a loser for reading the Star, and I was like, okay. He also did try to bond with me at one point about like, oh, okay, so you like cats. How many cats do you have? We had 5. We're down to 4. Did not explain what happened to the 5th one. So, I mean, again, that was my friend. Unofficial, not sanctioned form of disruption, but it got to him. So that's a win.
I was spending time at a local tavern back in 2019 in the riding in Peterborough, Kawartha, and I was speaking to a friend of mine who I believe now is party staff, but it was very late at night, and we happened to get the premier on the phone at the bar. And there were about 30 dippers in the bar. It was my old bar. And it was pretty late at night, but I like jumped the bar and turned the radio off in the bar so that a friend of mine could interrogate the premier at 12 o'clock at night, and like 30 people going like,
yeah.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good time.
I'm just going to go on mute and pour myself another drink so I can keep talking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so everyone, sorry, Baz, I didn't mean to throw up your thing there for everybody, but you did post it on the public chat there. But Baz is a good follow on the social media. Baz is a very good organizer, works in the community, thinks about people a lot, and is very clever. A part of the best warming needs to buy Colombian flu. Allegedly. It's very important that we always say that. I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. We've been having a great time. Terra and I have been Twitter friends for a long time now, and it's really nice to just sort of have a casual conversation and to do our thing, show off our cats, have indiscriminate beverages. Basmati, I'm new to this YouTube chat thing. YouTube chat is a really good time. A lot of people who watch this show say the chat is the best part. So thank you being a part of it. Usually we have all of our favorite Twitter trolls are generally on the chat. So if you're Colonel Angus or Shelby Prokop Miller, like sign in. Let's you're the reason I created YouTube. Yeah, well, that's very sweet. Baz is helping organize our Ontario NDP Indigenous Peoples Committee in the communication side. So we've been having a really nice time doing that work, and thanks for your commitment to social justice and for organizing in a positive and productive way. Yeah, we're having a good time here. Lots of things are happening. There's been a huge shakeup over at the Premier's office, all to the point that I think that at this point, I'm going to do a little bit of a screen share, and we're going to walk through what it means if I can.
Can we react in real time?
We're going to react in real time. Share screen? Which one? This one. Application window. Very smart. Very smart. Good, good, good. Chrome tabs. Where is it? There it is.
I'm scared.
Wrong one. Look, it's the Shut the Fuck Up Friday, guys. Who did I want to talk to? It was Aiken. Where is it? It's not there. Where did I put it?
Keep us all in suspense, Sean.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm really bad at technology. I grew up in.
It hasn't been a stressful week at all.
I literally grew up in the forest, and here we are. Where is it? Where are you? David Aiken. Okay. New restrictions also put in place by Ford Nation office to prevent leaks to the press. The chiefs of staff to cabinet ministers no longer to get electronic access to the docs their bosses need to see before a cabinet meeting. But the bureaucrats still do. And this is in response to the shakeup in Premier Ford's office. After a chaotic week, Travis Kahn moved to Deputy Chief of Staff for Strategic Communications beginning Monday, replacing Dan Miles, who's expected to move somewhere else in government. And then Laura Stone congratulating the guy on hitting the ground running, which, again, is just so obviously transparent. Globe loves the Conservative Party. Yeah, it's a tire fire.
If there's any freelance journalists watching this or just people curious, I do think that there is a very big story to write about all of their comms people and how they bully Ontario NDP staff and Liberal staff and gang up on, you know, people with like 14 followers who ask a question. They are, you know, doing really, I've seen, you know, like colleagues of mine being absolutely attacked by their people. I mean, I'm sure you saw the whole Jonathan Goldsby with Brian Lilly stuff go down, where, you know, you had Ford's chief of staff saying a journalist looks like a disgusting troll who's never had the touch of a partner. And these are the people who are communications for our government during a pandemic. And on taxpayer dollar hours, will try to find NDP people to just harass. Although I do enjoy when they go over to their little Twitter account, the PC Press account, and go there because they almost always get ratioed. And it's fun to watch them get so ratioed. My favorite thing is when they get ratioed when hypothetically organization or person tweets something specifically to get them mad and we want their base to see, and they'll quote retweet and then they'll get immediately ratioed. But it's just kind of horrifying the way that the staff works there, who gets in, what qualifications they have, how they interact publicly, how they go after other staff members. It's just bananas.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, you know, that's part of the comm strategy. So you look at historically over the last 10 years about the history of communication staff in the conservative movement who are just plain out abusive. They don't give two fucks about anything. And they are intent on just sort of burning down the building as they leave. One of the perfect and prime examples of that and how that is rewarded within the conservative movement now is looking at Stephen Lecce, who was one of the chief communication staff for Stephen Harper during his last term in government. That was Stephen Lecce, and now he's supplanted the very charismatic Stephen Del Duque in the writing of King Von, and they reward this villainous and toxic behavior with more of it. And thank you, Baz. Yes. Yeah, send them over. Like it's so toxic. It's so unnecessary. Their job is to put out the messaging of well, they have a job, right? But we know what they're supposed to do. They're really there. They're the bulldogs for the Conservative Party, and that's what they're supposed to do. They're still idiots. That's the other thing. Because they don't have a leg to stand on other than being ideological about things that don't matter anymore in 2021.
Yeah, like their comm strategy, and like, have you ever read a Doug Ford fundraising email? Like, compared to our emails, which, you know, not to brag, are either beautiful or very well written, but like.
Yeah, okay. Here's my little. I
know that you don't like emails, but here's the thing.
No. Here's the thing. Ontario NDP fundraising emails are the equivalent of clicking on a recipe online and then having to read someone's story before you get to how many cups of flour it takes.
The graphic ones.
I love it. It's still the same.
You know, with that whole internet recipe thing came about as a way for people to, you know, have copyright over the recipes that they post without them getting reposted, and also help them get advertising dollars. So not your cup of tea, but the data speaks for us.
No, I love it. I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think we need to call it what it is.
Yeah.
That's
I love it.
Because, I've been
like,
offering to write. I've been offering to write fundraising emails for the Ontario NDP for a long while. So if anyone from Engagement is listening right now, please call me because I want to write one.
I'll tell them on Monday that Sean wants to help out the digital team. I'm sure our union would love that. But what was I gonna say? Our email program has actually grown really big in the last little while. And by last little while, like 2 years, because what is time? But Doug forwards emails for anyone else who hasn't had the pleasure of reading them. Yes, Adrian, I did the cat one. So thank you that you remember it a few years later. New Year's Eve, New Democrat. But Doug Ford's emails are like at a third grade reading level, like on purpose. Very short sentences that look like a Rupi Kaur poem, but saying things like, you know, calling all college kids socialists and stuff like that. So when I talk about digital organizing, anyone who works at the NDP tends to wear a lot of hats. So I do a lot of the digital organizing, but I also do a lot of the graphics that you see online, the Instagrams, all of our graphic emails, anything that comes from the party side. So I do communications in that as well. So if you saw a fun GIF that you liked, or an infographic that you liked, or the Doug Ford language school post that went viral a little while ago, that was also part of our digital organizing. If you wear any merch of ours, that was also me, despite, you know, being digital.
Just checking in on everything. Baz sent me a very funny email. Yeah. So again, just touching base with everyone. Make sure you press subscribe and like. Helps grow this space. Eventually, you know, we'll drop the facade that we're a neutral and independent media organization.
Oh, yes.
And really,
we're nonpartisan.
Yes.
You're nonpartisan? I don't have to say
that's
I'm
right.
nonpartisan.
That's right. We're no, we're absolutely partisan media. I don't care. I think it's important for us to have that. We're like Press Progress, but in person and unfiltered, and probably to the left of Press Progress a little bit. But anyways, I think we need to create the left media ecosystem. The left media ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's very, very important. So if anyone wants to start a YouTube channel or a Twitch stream that just says left politics, please let me know. And I will come on your show and talk about whatever you want to talk about. Terry, Terry, you should see
Can I just say, I don't know if I should say this out loud. Okay. The last couple years, I wanted to do an April Fool's joke, but like obviously the tone, just the last 2 April 1st, like it would have been bad, but in my back pocket. So hopefully next year, I wanted to do an Ontario NDP April Fool's joke. That was an announcement that we're ditching orange and we're going pink, and we've done a rebrand, and just like see how people react. I have like a whole redesign of it, like ready to go. Like this.
What's the hex key? What's the hex key?
I don't actually remember this one because I made it 2 years ago. Or I made it.
That is so funny.
I made it like I've been wanting to do it. Hopefully next April 1st, like it will be okay to post that. It just, you know, with the news and everything, obviously not this year, but I definitely.
Who do we have to talk to about a rebrand, by the way?
It's kind of me. But like also senior staff, like the more senior staff at Queen's Park, but like party side stuff. I do most of our branding, which is why you all donate to our lovely emails now. So.
Hey, like I really like the aesthetic that the party has gone with over the last couple of years. So thank you for that, because I've basically lifted everything from it
Thank
into
you.
this show. Big fan
Yeah,
of the fonts. Big fan of the fonts.
I do love the colors on this show. I think that's the first thing I noticed about this when you announced it. It's like I see that color combo. I see you.
And it works. Just got to do it. Don't ask permission. We can keep a secret. Tara, I'm sending you my orange game. NDP needs more purple. Clashes so well. Yeah, like I think. Okay, so anyone who's watching right now, like, don't tell anybody that we're gonna do pink on April Fools next year. Next year, if
Hopefully.
I'm still a show, I'm gonna rebrand pink as well, and it'll be really really funny. But we're gonna do an entire episode on like Milton Friedman economics. So buckle up, and we're going to talk about like Malthusian hierarchies and determinations of economic structures. It's going to be really, really fun. And basically, I'm going to turn in my father for an hour. It'll be good.
I don't believe the economy is real. Money is made up. That's where I'm kidding.
See, no. See, you're a real guest on Brave New North. Let's talk about modern monetary theory, because sovereign debt is not.
I did that. I had a telemarketer right after all that like stock stuff happened with like the game. Like, this is how little I know about the stuff. Like the gaming thing with the stocks and stuff. Yep. There was like a scam telemarketing thing that went on for a couple of weeks after that to get people to like learn how to do stocks, trade stocks, buy stock. I don't know. Anyways, but they caught me when I was a few drinks in on a Friday night, and I just simply was like, I don't believe stocks are real, and that the economy is a social construct. And the guy on the other end of the phone was like, you what? And he got so heated, and he tried to talk to me. I'm like, yeah, I mean, money is a man-made concept, and I don't believe in it, really. I just have to operate within it. And he's just like, could not. I was like, well, I hope you have a great weekend. But I stopped getting calls from them after that call. So
these are the same people that, okay, and like I do have some belief in cryptocurrencies and all of this. I believe modern monetary theory as an accounting lens, right? So this is why I would preface this. But at the same time, these are the same people that think Bitcoin is real.
Yeah.
Like, it's
also they think it's real, and I actually had a New Year's Eve party where two men kept on trying to talk about Bitcoin, and my friend and I were like, please stop it, like, it's New Year's Eve. And we just started, every time they brought it back up, we just screamed at them, and everyone else was in it. Like the party host was like, yeah, I'm okay with this. So like they tried it a couple times, and we would just scream like, yeah, it's not that interesting, and also it's really bad for the environment.
Yeah, it is really Bitcoin specifically. There's other ones that are actually apparently okay. But
see, my solution to things does tend to be screaming. That is why I'm a digital organizer and less of a door-to-door person.
They're the like one like legendary tale about me on the campaign trail was canvassing a high income neighborhood and convincing a landlord to take an NDP sign because the NDP would review the relationship between landlords and tenants.
Yeah, we will. That's true. That is an accurate statement. That is a selectively accurate statement.
Yeah. It's not deception. It's just politics.
I mean, you got that on one side, and on the other side, you have Doug Ford telling everyone that we don't need paid sick days because there's a federal program, when he knows damn well that the federal program has a lot of gaps. So I'll take your deception over his any day.
Oh, yeah. Like, well, again, it's the thing. Talk to 3s and 4s. Talk to people that don't vote NDP. Say, hey, consider the NDP. Better than the Liberals.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm excited for June 2nd. I'm mostly excited for June 3rd. I'm going to like keep my head off and sleep. It'll probably be the first good night's sleep I've had since Doug Ford got elected, but I'm really looking forward to that post-election nap.
I slept for a week after the last election. I forget what I watched. I think it was I think I just watched the Golden Girls for a week.
Yep.
Stayed in my apartment, and then I started working on municipal campaigns.
Yeah. I am 20. It's funny because 2020, I was like, this is the year that I am going to try and relax, because 2019 was really crazy, because I did the Manitoba provincial campaign, came home for 4 days, and then flew out to do, or took a train to do the federal campaign, like not really any break in between. And so 2020, I was like, I'm gonna, take this year to like maybe do some professional development, be really chill, maybe I'll travel, and then the pandemic happened.
Yeah. It's important to take the broke my stairs after me one. Yeah. It's I'm a big Golden Girls fan.
Is Golden Girls one of those shows that you can appreciate it if you didn't watch it when it was on, or is a lot of the appeal the nostalgia?
I'm not that old.
I'm talking about for myself too. I'm older than you, I'm pretty sure. But for example, like I love Buffy. If someone hasn't watched Buffy before, I'm aware that a lot of my love of it is nostalgia. I don't think you're old. I'm fairly certain I'm older than you.
Well, we don't need to age ourselves, and we don't need a competition here. But I believe the Golden Girls stands up.
Okay.
Buffy, sometimes there are a couple of moments where it's like, it's 2021. But the Golden Girls, there are still those moments. I don't know. Sound off in the chat. What do you think is aged better, Golden Girls or Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Because we are switching from a politics show into a culture war show, and we are going to go Golden Girls.
The Golden Girls. That's why I was asking.
Are you kidding me?
That's why I was asking.
Oh my God, you would love it.
If it stands,
you would love it. It's amazing.
Okay. So it stands up on its own. Like I don't have to have like a love and a feeling for it. Yeah.
It was a show directed and written by women about older women living their best life. There are some jokes that don't land the same way they did back in the early 90s and 80s, but definitely good humor, empowered women who are older. It was very, very good. Very, very good. And I'm not here to disparage Buffy.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the Golden Girls is good.
Yes, for the people in the comments, I need to, who are talking about Buffy, I do need to say that when I watch Buffy, I engage in a lot of Xander slander, who I think was a stand-in for Joss Whedon, and they both suck. So it doesn't age well in that way, but it does age well in like having sort of Xander can represent all of the mediocre men who somehow just get to where they're going and suck all the time along the way. So it's fun to watch that it didn't age well the way it was intended, but it aged well for me to get drunk and engage in some Xander slander.
I think we finally hit the crux of what the culture war is on the left. I think it's Buffy versus Golden Girls.
You're gonna have to do a Twitter poll.
Oh fuck! Yeah. We forget Xena. Xena.
You know what breaks my heart is Kevin Sorbo becoming a right-wing anti-abortion nut job. Because like I was a little girl and I thought Hercules was so cool. Because it was on the one TV channel I could get.
Okay, maybe this is putting me in a position, but so I'm a huge RuPaul's Drag Race fan.
Yes.
And and Gottmik in this season doing the "You want to buy a sundial" look was life.
Yes, that was very much speaking to. I was talking about the live action Hercules, but the cartoon Hercules, also great. I also, fun fact, saw that on my 10th birthday party, and I cried so much at the end when I thought he was going to die, and my dad still makes fun of me for it. I just like lost it. I was sobbing, and like 10 is a little old for that, but yeah,
so we have young kids, right? And we bought Disney Plus, and like we're like rewatching all the movies that came out when we were like 8. And like I remember being like, oh my God, like I'm going to the movie theater for the first time. It's a big deal. I'm gonna like put on like a shirt with snap buttons, and I'm gonna go to the movie theater at the Dirt Mall in Peterborough and watch The Lion King, and then watching it again with my kids. My kids are like 2 years old. They're not watching this crap. But I'm like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. They're like,
yeah,
it's great. It's great. This is what I love about parenthood is
So my cat, who is the closest thing to a child I have, actually has favorite movies, and they're all Miyazaki movies. She will come and sit as soon as you put one on. She just loves the animation style, so she's got good taste there. She has less good taste if you saw, I post it a couple times a year. She has a favorite song called Hey There Delilah, but that is less good taste.
My mother loves Hey There Delilah.
I hate it, but it's the only song that she loves. And she will like come running if you sing it.
It's so funny.
But not with any other song. But yeah, so she has horrible taste in music, good taste in cartoons.
Well, Tara, we should probably try and wrap it up a little bit here. Is there anything we want to touch on before we say goodnight? I think
for anyone who's on there and is involved in a writing association, if you see campaign schools coming up for social media or content creation, sign up. I love to share that knowledge with people and get everyone primed to get Ford out of office. And on a not NDP note, I just hope like everyone has some self-care this weekend, because it has been a tough week, month, years. Just tough time.
Yeah, it has been difficult times. Oh, sorry, I lost you there for a second.
Oh, I just, they're talking about how that song, Hey There Delilah, is creepy. I'm well aware of how creepy it is and the history behind it. But if I want my cat to come out from under the bed, it's the only thing that works.
Okay, with that, I want to thank Tara so much for hanging out tonight, and please come back anytime. I know you're very busy with the work that you do, but if you ever want to come and pop off every now and again, please do. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we will be back next week. I believe John Smith is going to be joining us from Harry's Last Stand. We're going to talk UK Labour Party. We're going to talk about international solidarity. We're going to talk about the clusterfuck that is Ontario currently, and continue on and spreading good faith discussions about all the things that we care about. So again, Tara, thank you so much for spending some time with me, and to everyone for tuning in. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye.